She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, I'm Dani Johnson, and I'm so excited today to introduce you or reintroduce you, depending on how long you have been viewing, whether it was the Dani Johnson Show on radio or television or right here on our website, YouTube, whichever way it is that you are viewing this. But you may have met a friend of ours, Jonathan Cahn, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn. Amazing man. We have done several interviews together through the years. I came in contact with him through his book, The Harbinger, which I wept all the way through this book and then had the beautiful privilege of interviewing him live on radio right in New York City. And he and I had spent several hours together. In fact, we ended up spending the entire day together that day. It happened to be a very important Jewish holiday, biblical holiday. And so Jonathan and I have been together for many, many years, and he's written amazing books that are international bestsellers, which, come on, I mean, there's national bestsellers and then there's international bestsellers. Every book he writes, he ends up just knocking the charts, people going crazy over it, and bringing so much revelation, insight into what is happening now, and perhaps a peeking into the future. So joining me today, again, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, but what do we have? Another new book. Yes, The Harbinger 2, something people have been waiting for a long time. Because once you read that first one, you're like, but wait, what's next? He did produce several other books that were amazing, but they had nothing to do with The Harbinger. And so now he's been released to give this to the public. I know it is already taking the world by storm because anything that Jonathan Cahn produces is something that's spectacular. So Jonathan, thank you so much for taking time out of your insanely crazy, especially media schedule, to join us today.
Thank you, Dani. Well, it's always a blessing from the first time we met. And you came to the congregation and you spoke, and it was the beginning of a tremendous relationship from the Lord. And it's always a joy and special and an honor to do this with you. Always.
Me too. I always get excited when we get to do this together, and I also love when you and I get together on the phone, whether it's like family stuff or whatever. And congratulations, you had another baby since the last time that we did a show. So yeah, and we did too. Not my husband and I, but yeah, we have our 9th grandchild that was born 4 months ago. So super fun. So anyway, let's get right to this book. I love this. I was so excited when I heard from you about it. I was like, Dani, finally. Like, okay, like, all right, Harbinger 2. Tell us, first of all, what does The Harbinger 2 reveal?
Yeah, The Harbinger 2 really takes up where the Harbinger left off, and it brings it up to right where we are now. And the questions is what's shaking right now, what's happening to America, what we've all been experiencing. Are these signs? Is this the ancient mystery continuing? You know, is this what the Harbinger spoke about happening now? Is America in danger of approaching judgment now? And if so, how much time do we have? What's ahead? Is there hope? What are we to do? What are the keys for believers to know what to do in times of shaking? The Harbinger 2 is going to open that up. And so when I did the Harbinger, there was so much that I did not put in there because it couldn't fit, number one, and I believe it wasn't the time. So what I put in the Harbinger was a piece of the mystery, but there was much more. So I always knew there was going to be another one. I always knew that I had to, but it has to be at the right time. And so the Harbinger 2 is going to open up those mysteries, first of all, called the Unrevealed, that I did not open then, I couldn't open them, but they're from back then, but are affecting us right now. And the other part is, since the Harbinger came out, the mystery hasn't stopped. It's continued to unfold. The Harbingers have continued. There have been more Harbingers. So the second part is that up to now. And the third part is what is happening right now. Is there a biblical ancient mystery? Is this all linked together? And where does it lead? What is the future? And what are we to do? So that, in a quick nutshell, is what the Harbinger 2 is going to reveal.
Yeah. And Jonathan, when I read The Harbinger 1, which if you're watching this for the very first time, and this is your first time even hearing the name Jonathan Cahn or Dani Johnson, you need to get a hold of his book, The Harbinger, the first one. And now you can like go straight into the second one because this is such a powerful read. I couldn't put this thing down. And here's why. I had been alarming our clients and a portion of the world that I had access to be communicating with for a long time that there was going to be correction coming to the United States of America. And these were the reasons why. And then when I came across The Harbinger 1 and read it, it was like, I no longer felt like I was alone in my understanding of biblical truths as well as history, biblical history, American history, and just seeing the insane correlations as what was happening in our time. And Jonathan, remind me, what year did you come out with The Harbinger 1? Was that 2011?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the revelations came to me about 2005 and then 2007. I wasn't going to write a book. I just shared it with Beth Israel. You were there. I shared it. And everybody said this got to go to America. So I wrote it, but it came out in ebook form at the end of 2011, and then it came out as a book in January 2012. So it's 8 years from the book coming out.
I have chills because it's such a powerful read and everybody needs to read it to get great understanding as well as coming to the place of like, hello, there's some serious what you call shaking going on, and you want to make sure you're in the right place with the right God when as this shaking is continuing. So you had some of this beginning materials. You didn't release all of it in The Harbinger 1. 8 years later, here we are. We're going to release the rest of it. And so what made you actually go to print and actually put this, in people's hands?
Yeah, I was last year, Dani, I was praying, Lord, what's the next book? Because I always pray, what's the next book? And I thought there was 3 things possibility, and I didn't expect this, and I got this, and I said, okay, because I knew this is the only book I've held off for years, and so I could not do it until the time was right, and it was the Lord. You just don't make it. You can't just write it. It's got to be that. So I got that, and I also got that this year was a strong sense that this year, 2020, the coming year, at that time was going to be a year of shakings. I shared it on the first week of the new year. I shared it with the congregation publicly that I talked about shakings. I talked about dark events, and so that this was going to be the resuming of the mystery of the Harbinger, and that therefore I had to write it this year. It had to go out this year to warn his people, to prepare all who would listen, all who would hear, and to get right with God, and to know what's happening and what's coming. So I started writing it in January, and then like by March, everything began, in America. All the shaking began. But I wrote it for that reason. I even went to my publisher on the first week of the year, Charisma, and said, listen, there's 2 things this year I believe is going to be very dramatic, and I have to write, this is the year I have to write The Harbinger too. And I also, there was another event called The Return, which is all linked to this too. So I had a very strong knowledge. I've never had a book where I knew the timing was exactly, it had to come out for the exact time as this. So it's just come out for that reason.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you believe that the things that you wrote in The Harbinger 1 are coming to pass now?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, in The Harbinger 1, now we're calling it The Harbinger 1 because, and I'm doing that too, because it's a Harbinger 2. But when I look back, Dani, there's a chapter called Things to Come in The Harbinger 1. Yeah. And it talks about the template. Now, for those who don't know, the template, the biblical template, is that a nation that's being warned by God to come back and it's in danger of judgment. It always begins with this in the Bible, with an initial strike. An enemy makes a strike on the land. Now it's limited, it's contained, it's a wake-up call, there's a shaking, but God is calling them back. But then the next part of the template is that there is a span of time, years, given to the nation, to that nation, to come back to God. This is in his grace, to come back, to turn back. And the thing is that if it doesn't turn back,
which we did,
what happens is, that the window of time begins to end. Now, I had a sense, a red flag that we were in danger of this window ending. We're in this now. And the thing is that at the end of that window, that's when the shakings, greater shakings, start coming and resuming on the land. So that was the first thing. But that's what The Harbinger 1 says. But then it also speaks about the kinds of shakings, which if we have a chance, I know we'll have a chance because you're generous with the time. When we get to there, I'll get into the details so people see it. But also, the mystery also pinpoints the time the year when this is going to happen if it follows this template, and it is this year. And I promise that in the time we have, I will get to that to show everybody listening how exactly this is. So yes, the answer is yes, where I was kind of stunned when I look back.
Yeah, it's really, really crazy because we're in that time. 9/11 was that warning. And the nation did like, okay, we got to pray. And then you saw everywhere, right? The passage where it says, if my people will humble themselves and pray, right? And that lasted for what? A minute. And then we've gotten more evil, more idolatrous, more greedy. We've changed more laws totally against God. We've taken down the 10 Commandments in courthouses. Yes. I mean, the level of craziness after there was a warning shot that came to our country, something we never thought could happen. And did it change us? No, it did not change us. And I believe without a shadow of a doubt, and I've been saying it for 20 years, that it's coming. And at the beginning of this year, actually, the message that I gave out to all of our clients, Jonathan, was the armor of God. This year is not going to be what you think it is. One thing I know you're going to need is you're going to need the armor of God. And oh my gosh, I had no idea. In all reality, I just felt it in my spirit that this is going to be a rough, hard year and that we would have to remember our belt of truth. We'd have to remember the breastplate of righteousness. We'd have to have the shield of faith. We'd have to have the helmet of salvation and our feet shackled with the gospel of peace. I just, for whatever the reason was, same thing to you. Like he's prompting you, telling you, hello, people, wake up. There's some stuff happening and you better be in the right place at the right time. So there's a mystery in the book that connects the Pentagon to the Bible. Tell us about that.
Yeah. And totally what you just said, I'm just so right on. A note that after 9/11, everybody was flocking to churches, but there was no repentance.
None.
And with repentance, there's no revival. And so instead of getting better, we got worse. Exactly, which I mean, far, racing, accelerating. So yeah, now in the Harmon, this is one of the mysteries that I did not reveal at the beginning, but it ultimately is a warning for now. And that is this. When judgment came upon Israel, what happens, and this is a pattern in the Bible, the nation's powers were shaken. The powers of the nation shaken. And not only that, but also that God says, I will bring things back to the foundation. Like I'll break down this wall and it's going to go back to the foundation. So in the times of this shaking and warning of the nation in judgment, it's the powers are shaken and the foundations are exposed. So here's the thing. One of the foundation, what are the great powers of America? Well, one, of course, is its military power. It's the military superpower of the world. But when did that happen? America was, isolationist for years. But it happened when the Second World War came out. America entered it in 1941. So 1941 is that key year. Actually, that year the military quadruples and everything starts going, and we enter the war at the end of it. Well, also at that moment, a building is begun, and the building that's begun is going to be the symbol of American military power around the world, and that, of course, is the Pentagon. And the Pentagon. So the first thing, so that's power. What happens on 9/11? The Pentagon is struck. This is a symbol of America's military power. That's number one. But here's the thing. What day was the Pentagon begun? What is the birthday of the Pentagon? The Pentagon's birthday, it was born on September 11th.
No!
Yes.
You always blow my mind how you reveal this kind of stuff. You have to be kidding me.
Yes, and born on that day. That is the birthday of the Pentagon, and so America's military power begins on 9/11. So Dani, long before we knew 9/11 as a day of calamity, it was the day of the foundation of America. That's why it was 9/11. And the thing is that not only that, but the building that the Pentagon replaced, the other War Department, the War Department building, that had existed for 60 years. Well, the Pentagon, if you take the date that it was begun and you add 60 years, it comes to September 11, 2001. To the date. And so here is the biblical thing, and that's why we have to know the Bible. And that's why the biblical message here is that the warning is, listen, America, you have become the greatest nation because I blessed you.
That's
but
right.
all the blessings have come from me. If you turn against me, if you war against me, and you don't come back, those blessings, that power, your great military power will crumble. And let me throw this in, Dani, because this shows you how real this is on top of it. What is the other great American power, in the world? It's economic power, which began long before the military power. Actually, has been centered on New York City. It's been
Yep.
centered on, its trade, finance, all that. Well, New York. Well, okay. So where does 9/11 strike?
Yep.
The Pentagon, military, and New York, the economic, and actually the symbol is the World Trade Center. But not only that, when did it all begin? When did this rise? When did the island of this island become New York? When was New York born? New York City born? It was born when Henry Hudson discovered it. What day?
No.
September 11th.
No.
9/11. New York was born on 9/11. America's economic power began on 9/11. And so both powers, the foundation day is 9/11. And so the warning here is, listen, America, all your prosperity and your blessings and your money and all, that is a blessing from me. But if you turn and war against me, you will see that crumble. And so 9/11, in a sense, Dani, the book, The Harbinger, is really, you could say, well, it's 9 harbingers that appear. But
Yep.
the harbinger is ultimately 9/11 itself. 9/11 is a foreshadow of what will come. And these are symbols of what will come if we don't turn back. And we're now at the more dangerous time. So this was all there from the beginning. And the terrorists, they were not reading the Bible, and they're not reading these things. It's just that it all happens. That is the sign from, and there and much more. But these are some of the things that I could never reveal from then, but that are for now.
Okay, so I have a couple questions for you on that note. I don't know if anyone else has asked you this question. How in the world, you always blow my mind how you pull these kind of things out. Like, it's just always shocking to me. How in the world did you ever come up with the idea to find out what was the birth date of when the Pentagon was established? Like, how did that enter your head?
Well, Dani, if I had to try to reproduce how these things come, like starting with a harbinger, I could never reproduce it. What happens is either something comes into my head, into my spirit. Look at this. There's something there, and that's before I know anything. And then I look, then I start researching, and I say, "Whoa, it is there." That's the way everything has happened. Like the paradigm. I remember lying on my bed, and 3 things come to me, and I say, could that be real? I get up, I go to the other room, my wife is sleeping, I type it on my computer, and whoa, so God leads me. Sometimes I'm typing on my computer, and something comes up that I didn't even type. I mean, that I didn't look for. It comes up. Or sometimes somebody says a word, it's the next key that I need. The Lord just makes sure, and he puts it on me, and I could never reproduce it, but I know when it's happening. And I'm the first one to be blown away. I don't, if you ask me, because this is a while back, I can't even tell you how. I'm going to tell you something right now that's linked to what I just told you, but I don't even know how that came. And it's this. On 9/11, on that day when they're fleeing the island, they're on the border, and there's smoke all over. In the midst of the smoke on the water is a ship, but the ship doesn't look like it's from the 20th century. It looks like it's from the 16th century or so. And and the reason is, the ship was a reproduction of Henry Hudson's ship, the Half Moon, which discovered New York on 9/11, was recreating the journey on that day. And so you got the symbol of the beginning of the planting and the symbol of the tearing down. God says, that which I planted, I will uproot. That which I began. So it's all comes together. And again, if you ask me, how do I even know about that ship? I don't even know.
I love it when I'm digging through the Bible and this stuff, just wild stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, that's just like today. Or, just how he reveals stuff, how he uncovers stuff that, you could read 50 times. And it's just this one time at the right time when he wants to reveal it to you, things come alive. But I'm always enamored by how connected these things actually are. And he really does keep to his biblical calendar. He really does communicate the same way he did in the Bible is the same exact way how he's communicating to us now. Like when we look back in the Bible and we see the military stuff that was happening then, for whatever the reason is, most of us don't know how to connect that to what does our military look like now? Where was our citadel? What was our war, our building that established, like, hey, this is the place where all the military meets. This is where all the war planning happens. You know what I'm saying? And we just don't think like that. We're reading in the Bible, but we think it's like such a far away thing over there, but it's not. It literally is duplicating right now, here today. He's giving us the message the same exact way he gave the children of Israel message. Let me get back to these questions. Oh, my gosh.
Exactly.
All right. So there was a scripture appointed to be read in the days leading up to 9/11. What was it?
Yeah, there is, and for those who read the Oracle, it talks about the Parshas, and that is that there are these appointed words that are read from, ages past that are appointed for the Jewish people to read every Sabbath. They go to the synagogues, they open up the scrolls, and they read the appointed word. They chant it, they pronounce, they read it, and so they're called the Parshas. So was there an appointed word to 9/11? Well,
absolutely.
The word that was appointed, and actually imagine it was read all over New York City because that's where most synagogues are in America. The majority. Here's the thing. The scripture was God telling a nation, saying, listen, if you follow me, I will bless you in every way. You'll be lifted up, the head of nations. You'll everything that happened to America. You'll be, prosperity, military power, everything, safety. But if you turn away from me, here's what's going to happen. Those blessings are going to be, they're going to be withdrawn from you. And it's going to begin, it says, an enemy, judgment will come. An enemy will come from a faraway land. And he will come and he will come and he will attack you in your gate. What is the gate of America? New York City. He will attack you in your gate. He will speak in a foreign language. He will be brutal. It says that it says that there will be a rain of dust upon you. Well, that happened in the middle of 9/11. And by the way, I'm not saying that was for Israel, but God is the God of, as you said, every moment. So there'll be a rain of dust. It says that the sky, the ground beneath you will be iron, the sky above you will be copper. Interesting, because ground zero, beneath the ground became the alloy of iron, which is steel, and above them was a cloud over New York City, over ground zero, which was filled with copper. Everything. It says you'll be groping in the middle of the day like a blind person. Exactly what happened on 9/11. It says the enemy will come. Now listen, the enemy will come like an eagle upon the land, like from the sky with wings. And it says will come like an eagle. The Hebrew says yida'eh, will come like an eagle swooping down upon you. Well, that's exactly how 9/11 came. Every plane came swooping down. And one of the images, Dani, of judgment in the Bible, and you see it with each case of judgment, is that of an eagle coming on the land, swooping down. Well, that happened on 9/11, but the first plane that began 9/11, on the back of it was an image of an eagle swooping down, the image of judgment in the Bible. And this was chanted all over New York City.
All over the world. Not only New York City, all over the country. Come on, there's Jewish synagogues in Chicago, Texas, like San Antonio has several beautiful. This was spoken all over the world and all over the United States, all over Los Angeles, San Francisco. There's synagogues everywhere. Every major city in America has this, but I know what you're saying. Like, it was spoken right in New York City, the gate of America, and bam. Wow. Gosh, and it's easy to find this out, by the way, people. If you're watching this right now, you're like, whatever. No, there is. In fact, in the Bible that I read, in the Bible that I've taught you from for many, many years, called the Scriptures, it keeps all the Hebrew names intact in the Bible, keeps God's name in the Bible. In the very front part of that Bible, if you ended up buying that Bible by the Institute of Scripture Research, that's the Bible that I use and that I've been teaching from for years. In the first few pages, it has the Parsha in there. It has it in there. And you can see everybody that is following the Parsha. And by the way, this was put into effect like 2,000 years ago, wasn't it? The Parsha is 2,000 years old.
Yeah, there is something. Yeah, there are some things that we know. Listen, we know that it's from ages past, no matter what.
Yes. So nonetheless, what I'm saying is it's easy to see what was read that day. In fact, I years ago, one of my Jewish brothers said, Dani, you need to find out when your Hebrew birthday is. Just type it in, my Hebrew birthday, and it takes it and it tells me exactly what the Parsha was on the day I was born. And it was Adar 12, 1969, not 1969, whatever, 5,700, whatever. Anyway, so bottom line is that what I'm saying to you is that Jonathan is not making this up. This is real, and this is an easy thing to find out, including the birth date of the Pentagon and the day that New York was founded by Hudson. This is amazing. Okay, so
Dani, I have to say something.
Yeah,
Adar 12, that's like Esther.
I know.
The Feast of Esther, Adar like 13, 4, 12. That's the time of Esther. You're an Esther.
My birthday is during the time of Esther. I know. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. And I forgot to tell you, side note, everyone just like turn off your ears for a second. I had my bat mitzvah, by the way, on my 50th Hebrew birthday in Israel. And they gave me a Torah. Did you hear that?
Amen.
Right? It was amazing. So I had to read in Hebrew straight from the Torah, and then they actually gave me that Torah. It's so beautiful. I have to send you pictures, Jonathan. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so before anyone realized what was happening on 9/11, there was an ancient alarm that was sounding. What was it?
Yeah, the ancient alarm, the alarm from the Bible is the shofar. It's the watchman. It's when the watchman would stand on the walls, he'd look out. If he saw the danger coming, an enemy coming to the city, he would sound the shofar.
Yep.
So that is clearly in the Bible, and that's also a sound of judgment. So here the question here is on 9/11, before the Pentagon knew, before intelligence, before all that, as the terrorists are beginning, the ancient sound of God from the Bible, warning of an enemy coming upon the city to attack it, begins sounding in the northeast of America. And it begins sounding first in Maine. Now, because it follows the sunrise, the dawn. It first sounds in Maine. Maine is the first part where the terrorists were. That's where 9/11 began. Then they come, then the trumpets start sounding at the time that they start sounding in Boston, and the terrorists come to Boston, and then the trumpets start sounding in New York City, and the terrorists start flying to New York City.
I'm chilled.
And then then it starts sounding in Washington, and the terrorists start flying to Washington, and it starts sounding just as the terrorists begin their plan. And the thing is that it goes to about, they say the rabbi said, a quarter of the day, or 4 hours rather, a quarter of the morning. And so it goes to about 10:30 on 9/11, and then it stops. Well, the last event of 9/11 is the fall of the North Tower. Remember the fall of the North Tower, which actually sent forth the beam that struck down the sycamore from Harbinger. Well, it falls just by 10:29. It's gone, and then at 10:30. The appointed time of the trumpets is over. And so here it is, the sign of God, the alarm of God.
Yep.
And it was warning, and kind of a symbol that here it's warning, but we weren't listening. And God's trumpets are sounding now, and we're not listening, but it's sounding. The Harbinger, when I wrote both the Harbinger and the Harbinger 2, I knew these are sounding, the sounding of the trumpets, the sounding of that. So this is the alarm for now. God warns before it happens. So we need to heed that sound.
Yes, no doubt. We're talking to Jonathan Cahn, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, his newest book, Harbinger 2, which is a continuation of his New York Times best-selling book, Harbinger, which I'm telling you right now, you got to read. It is so powerful. You'll be blown away by all the connectivity between the Bible and what is happening in our day right now. Harbinger 2 is connecting even further, like where we're at right this minute. Again, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn. This interview is going to continue, actually. We're going to do another segment going deeper into the book and deeper into the mysteries and how it's applying to today and what we really should be doing about it. The fact is that we're further away from God than we've ever been. And now is the time to clean out the giant potatoes that are in our ears right now. Start taking a chisel to our hardened hearts, because that's what I see more than anything that's happened in the last 2 decades is the heart of America has gotten harder and harder and harder. More and more splicing, more and more division, more and more judgment against people groups, against religious groups, more and more pain that's been brought on, more and more abortions that have continued to happen, more and more corruption in our government, more and more corruption in the church, corruption in schools, in business, you name it. Everything is just completely off track. And if you want to know what to do about it, I highly recommend that you get a hold of the book, The Harbinger 2, as well as get a hold of every book that he has. Every single one of them will completely blow your mind. There's never been something that I've read or even a conversation that I've had with Rabbi Jonathan Cahn that has not completely blessed me, has opened up parts of my soul, as well as confirmed things that I felt so very alone on, because I was the only person in my center of influence saying these things. And yet, bam, here comes this wild voice out of New Jersey who happens to be a rabbi and I believe a scholar, confirming the same exact thing. So listen to me now. Amazon is where they can find your book, right, Jonathan? Is that where you're sending people to get a hold of the book right now?
It's all over. You can get online now, Amazon and everywhere online, and also any bookstore from Walmart onward. And not only for yourself, but even if there are people in your life who need to hear and need to be woken up. If they're believers or not believers, it doesn't matter. It's for them as well.
Yes, it is. And I would get a hold of the Audible version as well. I would read it right along. You'll have Jonathan's voice going into multiple different characters as he's reading this. It's a powerful read. I would do both side by side. So do yourself a favor, especially during this crazy time that our nation is in right now. Crazy time. You got time on your hands. I think is an important time to be refreshing yourself and really getting an understanding of these mysteries of how the Bible is completely connected to right now, here today, and that God is speaking to our nation and giving us a very strong message, and you need to hear what that message is. So my name is Dani Johnson. DaniJohnson.com. That's one N and an I is our website. Again, that's DaniJohnson.com. There also you can find incredible training, teaching on helping you to develop yourself emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially during this crazy, crazy time that our world is in, and how to set yourself up to win during this season versus losing. And one of those ways is getting a great understanding of what's in Rabbi Jonathan Cahn's book. So we're gonna close it up for now. And you'll be joining us here very, very soon for part 2 of this interview with Rabbi Jonathan Cahn. Rabbi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dani.
All right. God bless you.
Bless you.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.